So if you can visualize that, that's the equivalent of 1 million gallons. We talk about this a little bit later. I refer to it as a football field volume. In addition, the raw sewage produced by 15,000 humans has the equivalent oxygen demand as this 1,000 gallons that we were talking about. So Cascade Township's population is 15,100. Ada Townships is 13,100. So what we can say is the oxygen demand in a single jet airplane de-icing event can be the amount of sewage discharged by all of Cascade Township in a single day. They're equivalent loadings. PG is a very potent oxygen demanding chemical. Another analysis that the MDEQ alluded to, Eric Sunday conducted some modeling to determine some effluent limits, and some of his scenarios observed dissolved oxygen reduction as far north as the confluence of the Grand River and Thornapple River. So what that means is this is not just a localized area that's affected. The results of this can be seen through Cascade Township and Ada Township all the way to the bend where Amway exists. It's a very powerful chemical, PG is. Another fact that we came across is the pilot study that was done. One of the conditions of the recent permit was that the city, wastewater treatment, and the airport get together and conduct an assessment to see the feasibility of discharging directly to the wastewater treatment. What was noted in the study was that they observed a green algae at the plant during the study. Those are probably the same green algae that we're seeing both in Trout Creek and Plaster Creek. In addition, one of the batches that was proposed for submission to the wastewater treatment was outside the limits of what they could accept and was rejected. So my thought is that if the wastewater treatment can't accept the stormwater discharge here in certain times, how can that be technically logical to send to our Thornapple River? How can that be right? One of the new observations that was just noted, back in March, the DEQ performed a routine inspection of the Plaster Creek, the west side of the airport, outfall 007, and it was noted that biofilm was observed in Plaster Creek. It was previously thought that that would be an impossibility based on the sediment conditions that were observed out there, but nonetheless, it was observed. We went out there 2 weeks ago, and also earlier this week, and discovered a petroleum sorbent boom in the waterway about 50 feet west of the Patterson crossing. In addition, as I walked into the sediment, into the creek bed, there was a sheen of oil that came to the surface. It's still unknown what the problem was. The boom has since disappeared, but I have questions as to what the characterization and what the water quality is of Plaster Creek. Again, the full characterization of this, it does not seem to be fully done, fully assessed. And how can we design when we don't have our arms around the full problem? What I'd like to also point out is the outfall 007 discharge is now proposed for being discharged to the Thornapple River. And within that watershed area is also the entire bulk fueling center for the airport. So the composition of this discharge could change dramatically, and we have much more risks now associated with providing that conveyance pipe to the Thornapple River. Getting into the mass balance of the design, I think that our numbers are the same. These are the airport numbers. I'm just going to present them a little differently and have a little bit different interpretation. But the numbers for collection at the gate is 28%. The treatment system is going to account for 29%. These two numbers together are 57%. The design is only intended to capture or collect 57%. The 7% is still going to escape and go through to the river, and this magical 36% that is fugitive and uncollectible is just something that is astounding that we do not have to do anything about. To break it down further, in the reduction area, I've tried to analyze areas where we can get improvement. The reduction area, I'm not giving them any credit for that. Best management practices have been around since 2000. That's just training, that's trying to do things a little better. That does not have technological basis. There are some devices out there, a hybrid de-icing vehicle that has been employed by the airport at the FedEx hangar, and they have supported a 50% reduction in the use of PG. That's a report that the airport's published. So why we don't lean in that to actually take some of the PG out of the equation is astonishing. The second part of this, the capture part, has always been 28% for the last 3 or 4 years, as I understand it. They use a block and pump method right now. The block and pump method is fairly inefficient. There are technologies out there that can get anywhere from 55 to 65% effective if they are used properly. Those are the de-icing pads. The survey done through the EPA recently identified that 80% of airports use de-icing pads as the primary form of collection. So something can be done in these two areas. The reduction and capture side, to me, makes the most amount of sense. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. The treatment, outstanding. That's the first time we've had a treatment system. It looks like it works. I can't validate the numbers, but it's not perfect. We still have 29%, we still have 7%, excuse me, that's not being accounted for. So this number over here, you know, as a watershed, as a member of the watershed, that doing a mass balance, you cannot magically have that number disappear. It is still in the watershed, it is still out there, whether it's taxing the groundwater, or taxing the soil, or taxing another water body as it falls off a plane in your backyard, it is still in our watershed. It's still in the Thornapple River. So I don't find 57% acceptable. I find this 43% number unacceptable. Moving on, one of the things from a regulatory standpoint that I look at is that how are we missing the boat on this? How is it that that 36% fugitive is not accounted for? If I'm an industrial person seeking a permit to do similar operations, most any other business, I would be asked to do an NPDES permit for my discharge to the river, but then I would also be asked to seek a groundwater discharge permit for that 36% that I can't get. That is still getting into the ground surface, it is potentially getting into the aquifer. We have 200 members of our community that have private water wells between the airport and the Thornapple River. Who's protecting these people? Where does it go? How do we not know this is not going on? And it's not just the PG, it's the carrier chemicals, it's the metals, it's all the other derivatives that can be carried through on this. This just seems very short-sighted. The groundwater discharge permit is exempt, is what we're finding for de-icing substances. So the airport technically has an out for this. The DEQ, however, should make that NPDES more accountable for that 36% that cannot be accounted for. Who's protecting our aquifers? What is out there to protect? This is a regulatory gap that has to be looked at and improved. Finally, wrapping up here, the Clean Water Act objective is to restore and maintain the chemical, physical, and biological integrity of the nation's waters by preventing point and non-point pollution sources. NPDES stands for National Pollution Elimination System, Discharge Elimination System, I'm sorry. It's eliminating. We're not encouraging discharge, we are not promoting it. We want to eliminate it. And the Part 8 rules of the MDEQ, it's almost their mission statement. The department is committed to and strongly encourages the use of pollution prevention, source control, and other waste minimization programs. Getting back to that slide, it's the front end stuff. It's the ounce of protection, it's the reduction, it's the capture side that is important. I think those objectives have been missed in this design. And I think the overall protection for all parameters out there of the watershed are not being adhered to in what's going on right now. That's all I've got today. This is about the public talking and getting their 2 cents in as to what's going on. We have monopolized an hour of everybody's time, so hopefully you all can express your opinion and we can learn from this today. So thank you all for being here.
Commissioners, Scott is making his way out with a mic. Feel free to come up to the podium. Please be brief. We want to hit as many questions, comments as possible. And if it makes sense to have a quick response, we'll do so as well.
Anybody see hands?
Thanks, Scott.
If you could state your name as well, that would be fantastic.
My name is Al Parent. My wife Karen, who has served on the Cascade Thornapple River Association Board, as either an active member or a right-hand helper, is here with me today. We have owned property on the Thornapple River for over 30 years and have lived on it for better than 20. Our son, daughter-in-law, and 2 grandchildren also live on the river just around the bend from us. These kids are Huck Finn, Tom Sawyer. They love the river. They live on and in it. Mr. Dixon's presentation, frankly, has me concerned. My wife has been concerned about this for a long time. I've not been on top of it like I should have been. The potential for carrying chemicals and metals into the river, along with the glycol, is disturbing to me. And it seems that we're talking about an old solution. The solution to pollution is dilution. But it's not. It's not dilution. It's containment and recycling. And the airport is already doing that, apparently, to a large extent. It seems to me that there must be ways to retain more of the chemical on site, recycle it, get it out of it. They have smart people. They know how to do this stuff. The airport is a huge pile of land. There are enormous areas for retention ponds. Why dump this into a sensitive body of water like the Thornapple? The Thornapple River is sensitive. I see the changes every time we have a major storm. I see sediment wash in. I see banks collapse. The boat traffic has changed the river. We don't need more destruction and more damage. There has to be a better way. There has to be a better way. And as I said, I wasn't going to talk until I saw that presentation. And that disturbed me. It really did. I hope it disturbed you.
Thank you. If you could state your name.
My name is Sandra Spencer. I'm a resident of Kent County. I am concerned about what the airport is doing as far as polluting the Thornapple, which is a tributary to the Grand, which ultimately goes out to Lake Michigan and to the Great Lakes, where municipal communities get their city water. Indirectly, we're kind of feeding this pollution to ourselves in our own water that we drink through the Grand Rapids public water system. And also, the bottom line question that I have is, with all the potential for poisonous chemicals that could be mixed in with the glycol that's dumped into the Thornapple, what biochemical reactions would be affected by other life besides the bacteria and fungi that would be accessing that water in the wetland natural design that you have? And isn't there a better innovative technological conservative system that you could use on site at the airport rather than using the natural step drainage systems that you have already modeled in place? The fact that Mother Nature has serious storms like tornadoes, serious flooding, what are your plans in the event that those water systems that you decide don't hold all of the stuff during inclement weather. So realistically, is it gonna be poison-free once it gets to the river or not?
You wanna say something to that?
Yeah, I just want to make a couple of comments. I'm going to turn it over to Dean Maricus to talk a little bit more about some of the comments were made about the PG being a carrier of metals and that. One of the things that Jim referenced was a study that was done by the DEQ last year. A request came out of the State Pollution Advisory Committee to do a toxicity analysis of the flow that was leaving the airport and going out into the basin and into the unnamed tributary or Trout Creek at the time. So we did go ahead and work with Ryan and his staff to take split samples, and we did go ahead and share that information with each other and along with Jim. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan or Phil, but the results came back that every suite of metal that we tested for was well below even background limits for the most part. Now, I'm not a scientist, so I'm not sure what the MEK is, Jim, so we'll talk to you about that. On that. The other thing that was shown on the video, which we think is a little ingenuous, is the fact about all the metals and oils and greases and everything that are coming off the airport. We've invited folks before, and the invitation is open to anyone in the room to come out and see